Hello! Some of you may have already seen my recent video about the upcoming Indie Game Clinic Collab Jam. If you're watching this video when it's just come out, then the jam starts in just a couple of hours, and that means that the brief for the game, this is the kind of secondary rule, the theme for this year, has just gone live. Often game jams just have a theme that's voted on by the participants, and while that's totally fine, and I love a bit of democracy, as someone who runs a channel that is based around reviewing, previewing games that you guys are working on, I have a lot of insights into the types of things which game developers tend to be quite weak at, and that is why I have come up with this brief, which is that your game needs to be self-explanatory. So as well as the regular collab jam rule that you cannot submit a solo project, the theme of this year's jam is that you must make a self-explanatory game which must be wordless. Your game may not contain any written text, either in the interface or in the game world. It may not contain any audio recordings of spoken language. It cannot contain any alphanumeric characters, not even for displaying scores, resources, statistics, and so on. And if your game contains any text-based or recorded language, it will be disqualified from the competition. This needs to be a game that contains no communication through the written word or the spoken word whatsoever. Why? Why am I doing this to you? What is the learning goal? Am I doing it just to be mean? A little bit. But no, there's a reason for it. Now, one of the things I've noticed running this channel for a while now is that there are lots of things in video games that developers think of as juice or polish, which are actually very, very fundamental to whether or not the game just makes implicit sense when someone tries to play it. You might be thinking, well, I need to have text. I need to tell a story. How are people going to learn how to play the game? That's the whole point. The point is to work out how to do those things, is to make you think of how every other part of the game communicates what it needs to communicate. Now, the only exception to this rule about not showing any on-screen alphanumeric characters is that if you need to say that press E to open a door, you can show the keyboard or the E button on the keyboard, but you need to show an image of someone opening a door. If your game controls with one of these, you can show this little fella. One of the points of this brief is for you to simplify your idea down so much that it's something where you can just almost look at the game and immediately know what you need to do. Okay, maybe the player might need a little diagram saying, press this button, guy goes up, or whatever, but the fundamental idea of the game should be so simple that it doesn't need that much explanation, hence it being a self-explanatory game. Now, if you go and check out the full version of this brief on the itch.io jam page or on the Patreon post that just went live a moment ago, you will see more detail on this. You'll see more explanation of why we've set this brief, some examples of games that do it well, and some other videos you can go and check out about UX and how games visually communicate and all of that sort of thing. But there was another reason I set this brief that I want to use a couple of minutes here to explain, and it's a little bit more high level, but it's basically about trying to get you to think like a game designer rather than a technical hobbyist. When I've taken part in game jams in the past, or I've run them myself, often there are lots of entries where it feels like the developer or the team have tried to do something way too complex or too big for the game jam, and that just results in a really bad experience for everyone voting on the game jam. Okay, the goal of a game jam is to like practice some skills and have fun, but I really want you to practice the skill of game design, and game design starts with the attitude that what you're doing is for someone else to enjoy, and it's not just as a kind of technical hobby to learn skills of programming and putting pieces of art together and stuff like that. So just to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about here, I had someone comment on the last video I did about the jam who'd just been doing Ludum Dare, which is like a 48-hour game jam, and he said, as someone deep in the Ludum Dare review minds, absolutely this. A game jam game is not an unpolished version of a full game. It is a polished tiny game that can be completely finished and appreciated in 5 minutes. Now, obviously that's a little bit prescriptive. You can use different game jams for different things. A game jam might just be an opportunity to try out a new game engine or try working with someone else. But if you're unfamiliar with this channel or you've just started watching, Indie Game Clinic is not about getting new people into making games. There's loads of stuff like that out there already. Indie Game Clinic is about taking people that are already making games, that already have some basic level of the technical skills, and encouraging them to dig a little bit deeper on the game design, the creative direction, the stuff that the players actually see and experience, and to start to care about that so that you can go from just making games that run and don't crash to making games that are actually good. I would just really try to focus what you're doing on giving someone across the world 3 to 6 minutes of self-explanatory, easy to understand, satisfying to interact with fun in the time they take to sit down and rate and review your games, rather than a confusing mess that they have to read an entire page of instructions for. Keep it simple, focus on how games communicate through their visuals, through things like VFX, feedback, all of the things that you think of as polish and juice, which are actually fundamental to helping the player understand what's happening in the game. Focus on all of those things and focus on the experience that someone is going to have when they sit down and play your game. That is what this is about, and that is why we want you to make a self-explanatory game. Have fun. I'm really looking forward to seeing what people make. I hope you have a great time. I hope if you're working with someone new that it goes well and you forge some relationships that you can go forward with making new games in the future, and I really look forward to seeing what you're all going to make.